So far so good. The site actually looked very daunting in the beginning, but we actually did the hardest part already, which is to have this main section, this header, this hero thing, and then this overlapping thing. We already did that. The rest of it is basically just applying the lessons that we've learned to other elements here. So we're going to focus on this section here, and there's a lot of typing involved, so I would suggest at some point to copy and paste, but I'll show you that. So I'm going to type the first one, but the rest then will be just copy and pasting from the existing site that I made, so you don't have to write all the HTML code for yourself. But I find it sort of helps to write some HTML code to actually get it in your fingers here, to have some finger memory maybe. So remember, we have our main class here. That's the main part of our page, and inside of that we have our hero and we have our collections. So after our collection, so it's this div here, we're going to do our product like this. And if we go look at our products page here, we see that we have our first element, which is not actually a product. It's sort of like a title for that, a product, or a header for that product thing, but it's included in these other elements. And then we have the actual products here. And so the way that I did this here is I actually made all of them the same, so they're all sort of cards, which is the description, so like a playing card. And the first one is a card as well, but it also has an extra tag, meaning it's a header. So we're going to make all of them links because they actually need to go somewhere. The ref is just a hashtag, meaning it doesn't go anywhere. And then the class is product card, written like this. Note that I don't do the double underscore, and here that's because product card is actually the whole thing. It's the word of what I mean here. In a minute I will do things like product card underscore underscore image. So that means, okay, the image for that product card. That's why we use these double underscores, because otherwise they might mean something else. A single underscore might mean something else. So product headers. So already you see that I have been doing some pre-thinking here, because I know that I won't need these two classes. And this is basically trial and error and looking at other sites. But in this case, it's maybe sort of intuitive to think about all of these things as sort of the same, but then the first one also to be a bit different. So I want to reuse the CSS from product card, but then add some CSS on top for the header, which is something that appears a lot. And what I want to do here is I want to do something extra, which we haven't done before yet, and that is to include some style inside of that element. Now, why would I do that? Why won't I do the styling inside of this CSS? Well, the reason is, if you look at this side, now this is sort of a dynamic side, it could change. But we see that we have these two elements here, and the background image that we see here is actually sort of part of the content, right? This is a jacket background image that we need, and this is a snowboard bindings image that we need. So having the background image as part of this element sort of makes sense in this case, because we can't actually make a background image for product header because it's always a different image. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write style here. Maybe do it on the next line. And here in that style, I can just write some CSS rules. So here I can write background image is a URL, going to img jacket, and you see it doesn't even want to complete here because it's sort of confused. It's like, no, what are you doing? Jacket header background dot jpeg. But it actually works, or it should work. Let's see. We don't actually see anything, so we still have some work to do here for us. So we'll add some content inside of that, and then we can actually look at it. So we're going to write an h2. Let's write like this: h2 dot product header underscore underscore title. So this means the title element of the product header is going to be the word jackets, and we'll write a div here. Product dash header underscore underscore action. So what happens if we click that? Well, we're going to view all of them, right? So here's our little, here's our little text here. That's our little card. As you can see, we still have some work to do. So let's do that work. it's nice to write a little bit of HTML and a little bit of CSS together, just so we get something on the page. So our products basically starts out the same way as our collections, which means that they have a maximum width of 1180 pixels and their margin is set automatically so that they float. So now it sort of aligns with the rest of this thing, which is what we want. Our products also use grid, CSS grid, right? Because we have these elements nicely in the grid, so CSS grid is perfect for that. Because here what we want to say is we want grid template columns. We want 5 of them, and we want them to take up all of the space, like this. And already here it's sort of obvious, but we see that we have this grid element here, and it sort of looks super crappy now. And it looks super crappy for a couple of reasons. One is that our card actually has a set height. All of these cards have a height that we have predefined of 300 pixels. Another thing that we need to do is to provide some spacing between this block, this element, our collections, and this block, our products, right? Because they're now just smashed on top of each other. So to do that, we are going to give our collections a margin. So I like to work down, which means that I give the previous element some margin at the bottom. So it already had a margin top of minus 50 pixels, so it sort of shifted up. We can give it a margin bottom of 50 pixels. And that provides some space between these elements. Okay, and then we want to style our card, and we want to do this for all of the cards. So we now have 2 CSS classes at our disposal, right? We can refer to a product card or a product header. So we have to think a little bit about where we want to specify that. But in this case, all of the product cards, they all are going to have the same property, which is that they're going to have a height of 300 pixels. They're going to have some padding because we don't want them to run all the way until the edge. And we want them to use display flex. We want all of these elements to appear in a column, just as we did with the collection, and we want the items to appear in the center, like this. And as you can see, it sort of does most of the things that we provided, but it's sort of ignoring some other ones. And here it's a good idea to look at our CSS to see what's going on, because we are adding these rules, and as you can see, none of them work. And this is a tricky one, because what we expect here is to have this product card appear here, but it doesn't. Instead, we have this element style. So this is the style that we provided directly on the element. It's this part that works. We have our the styling for our link that also works, but we don't have a product card. So what went wrong? And most of the time when this thing doesn't apply, means that we made a typo. And some common typos is that we forgot a dot, or we added a dot where we don't need one, or in this case we did the underscores incorrectly. So we refer to it as product dash card, but here we wrote it as product underscore card. So this is the correct way of spelling it. They have to match up, right? And now they do. So now this element is the same name as this element, and you can see that the rules appear here. So that's why I have this inspector open all the time, because I want to make sure that all of these rules apply here. Otherwise I can keep messing here and nothing happens. And it's not really the rules that are wrong, but the fact that I named the thing wrong, right? Cool. So we want to style our title of our product header here. If we go look at our product header here, it has this same blue background and then this view all link. So let's do those quickly. Product dash header underscore title. It uses display inline block, so it doesn't take up the whole space. This is our background color that we provided. We can go look if we want. It looks a bit okay. We want them to be white. Looks a bit better. We want the font size to be 24 pixels. We want not the full padding here. So note that yeah, I'll do that in a minute. Note that we actually want this element to appear to the side, right? So that's not really happening, and because our product card here, all the elements are in the center and the padding is set to 25 pixels. So our product header, we can say, well, it's a bit different. So the header actually has a padding of 0, and it has a padding top of 180 pixels. So it doesn't appear at the very top here. And then also we want it to appear on the side. I'm sort of going through my reference document to see how I did that, because the way that I did it here is a bit different from what I expect it to be. Because of course these things are now aligned, because we provided align item center here. So maybe in this case it makes sense to say, well, our products card, so not the card, sorry, the header here, we're going to use padding, but also we're going to say align items is now flex start, right? Because everything has to appear on this side. So we're overriding product card here in our product header element. So you see that this one takes precedence. The reason why that takes precedence is because this clause appears later. If we did it this way, then the precedence rules are a bit different. Although here, maybe not. Oh yeah, okay. So the precedence rules are here actually dependent on where they appear in the document, because the weight is the same. So now if we change them in the document, this one actually goes first. Anyway. But we're almost there, right? So it's aligned to the side. We want to give it a bit of padding here, which is the thing that I had before, 24 pixels, 25 pixels, whatever. Maybe some letter spacing. All of these things, of course, we can style. And then we want this second element to appear a bit better. Now, headers have these really annoying margins, so I always start with margin 0 and then maybe change the margin later, so maybe have the margin bottom of 10 pixels. And that allows us to style this action element, so product header action. Here we want the color to be white, we want it to be uppercase, like this, and also we want the same padding left that we did on the other one, so 25 pixels, so that they're aligned, right? And we're done. This element sort of looks okay. It works. Cool. Now it's time to do another card, but the actual card, so the actual thing. And again, I'm just going to code the first one and then allow you to copy and paste the other ones, because they're really boring to write, or even just to change the text. We can actually copy and paste this code. I don't recommend it because we're going to make some mistakes while copy and pasting. So I'm just going to make a new one, have this again, use the hashtag, and then use the product card, but not product header, because this is actually a different one, right? And then inside of that we have our image. That image also has a clause, product dash card underscore underscore image. The source of that image is img jacket 01. The alt tag would refer to that jacket. We'll leave that empty here. And then we have a paragraph, so a piece of text, product dash card underscore underscore title. So that's the title of our product, which is called Haze Varsity. And then we have the product card underscore underscore price, and that's the price of our product. And this one is relatively cheap for ski jackets, I think, maybe. So here we have these properties, and as you can see, it's sort of a bit of a mess because it goes outside of this frame that we provided. Now, as I said before, let's copy and paste the other one. So I'm going to open from the Snowdevil thing that I downloaded. I'm going to open my index, and then we already have this first one, but we'll copy all the other ones here, and we'll put those after these ones. Okay, they're pretty much all the same, except But the last two are a bit different, and I'll show you on the final site. These are actually on sale, and there's two ways that you can tell. One is this sale thing, obviously, and the other one is that this price is strike through. So this was the old price, and now the new price is here, and holy crap, they're expensive. Like, what's going on? So we actually have to do these things, right? So we have to provide our price, which we did before, and inside of that price I have this old price thing here. And the reason why I do that is so I can style that, so I can do this, have this line that going through this text, which is a CSS class, that CSS style that I can provide. And then the last thing that I want to do here is have this product card tag, so this tag, this label that I attach to it, which is the word sale. So that's the thing that you see here. Now, of course, I have to style them. So for our product, let's maybe do our image first, because it's the most obvious one. So product card underscore image, the height of that image is going to be a bit less than what we provide. And again, these images are a bit bigger than we provide, just for scaling purposes. So our height is 210 pixels. You see that they're all on white background, right? So we probably want our product card to also have a white background, like this. We want our object fit contain, so our jacket nicely fits into that box. This is generally not an issue, I think, but sometimes the resolution might be a bit different, and then it sort of makes sense to use this. But as you see here, nothing else happens. What contain does is basically it never it will use the widest thing and scale that down, so it always fits in nicely into that box. And it works really well if the images all have different sizes, which they don't have in this case. They're all pretty uniform. And then we want to have some margin with the next element. So the next element is the name of the thing here. Now, remember that we use a paragraph here, or for this product card. As you can see, a paragraph by default already has some styling. So we want to get rid of that styling because it's not really something that we want. So we're going to say, okay, product dash card underscore title. The margin is going to be 0, so that sort of fits it nicely. You see that we have this next thing sort of peeking out. So we have our jacket here that has a margin of 15 pixels at the bottom, and then our text is right below that. And then we provide the margin for the next one, but first we get rid of this original margin for product card price. So I'm going to write product dash card underscore price. Margin 0. Maybe make the font size a bit smaller. Here for our title, tweak the color around a little bit, make them bold. So all the normal styling-ish things that you want to do. And voila, you have your basic grid of elements, as you can see here. So this is pretty amazing, right? Because I remember most of you being super scared of making this grid, and we actually did it. So they're actually here. There are a couple of tweaks that we want to do, specifically around this sale thing, but there's one thing that I want to show, and that we did here with the line before, is that they all have these tiny lines in between. So again, here with our CSS grid, it's super easy to use grid gap of 1 pixel to actually make this little lines happening between these elements. So I really like that. Now the sail is a bit tricky because the sail actually has to appear sort of on top of this other part, right? Remember, if we do things on top of each other, that we can use position absolute and position relative, and that's exactly what we need to do here. So each card that we provide actually uses position relative to make sure that it's that whenever we use position absolute, that it's actually going to be absolute to that product card. And then we can refer to product card underscore sale, so our sale element, to use position absolute. And here to use the top and left of 0, so that it actually aligns to the top and the left of the element. And actually this one's not called sail, it's called tag. Right, so there it is. We also have to do a bit of styling, so I'm going to select one of those elements. You can see that it also has this weird super big margin, so we're going to turn that margin off. And then I'm just going to add some styling to it. So I'm going to give it a background color. Again, our usual color. Use white. Use text transform uppercase. Use a font size of 14 pixels. Yeah, as you can see, it's starting to look okay. And then use some padding so we have some extra room within those background images like this. So that's our tag, and so they look really cool. And then for the old price, so remember this one has a price, but it also has this other thing called old price. We can refer to that, so we're going to write product card underscore old dash price. And the magic line here is text decoration line through. And that actually is the one that puts a little stripe through that word here. And to make these visually a bit distinct, we're also going to use some margin right 0.2 rems. So they're a bit spaced here. We can also maybe make the color a bit lighter. I don't know. Yeah, or even a bit more. Yeah, tweaking. Cool. And we're done with this element. There's one thing that I want to show, and then we're finished, is that I want to have some extra margin here at the bottom. This is sort of tricky because of the position relative and position absolute. So the best way to do this is to go to our main element and say add some padding bottom of 50 pixels. And that actually allows us to have some little space. So all that's left in our site is to do the footer, and then we're done with our page.